Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gaura Hari, Jai Ho. Ha, Gaur Nityananda Bol Hari Bol. Ha, Gaur Nityananda Bol Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki, Savior of the whole world Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagwan ki, Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadrama ki, Shri Shri Panchatattva Bhagwan ki, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Shri Shri Lakshmi Nrsingadev Bhagwan ki, Shri Guru Parampara ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hare Krishna. Welcome to this very auspicious and very beautiful and wonderful Srimad Bhagavatam class. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 16, Text 37. Vishvashya stitilayo bhavaheturadyo. Vishvashya stitilayo bhavaheturadyo. Vishvashya stitilayo. Vishvashya yasti layo bhavaheturadyo. Yogeshwararapi duratyaya yogamaya. Yogeshwararapi duratyaya yogamaya. Shema vidhashyati sano bhagavanstradhahisas. Shema vidhashyati sano bhagavanstrayaditas. Tatra shmadiya vimasheshana kriya. Tatra shmadiya vimarena kiyan ihartaha. Tatha. Vishvashya yasti thilayo bhavaheturadyo. Yogeshwarerapi duratyaya yogamaya. Shreman vidashyati sano bhagavam strayadisas. Tatra shmadiya vimrishena kriyane tartaha. Vishvashaya sthiti layo bhava hetu radyo. Yogeshwarerapi duratyaya yogamaya.
Shemam vidasyati sano bhagavam strayadisas.
Shema vidashyati sano bhagavam strayadisas.
Tatra smadiya vimashena kriyani hatha.
Vishvasya yastiti layodvava hetu radyo.
Vishvasya yastiti layodvava hetu radyo.
Yogeshwarer api duratyaya yogamaya.
Yogeshwarer api duratyaya yogamaya.
Shemam vidasyati sano bhagavam striyadishas.
Shemam vidasyati sano bhagavam strayadishas.
Tatra smadiya vimrishena kiyan ihartaha.
Tatra smadiya vimashena kiyani hatha. Vishvasya yastiti layodvava hetu radyo. Yogeshwarerapi duratyaya yogamaya.
Ma vidashyati sano bhagavam strayadisas. Tatra smadiya vimrishena kriyani hartadha. Ladies. Vishvashaya sthiti layo bhava hetu radyo. Yogeshwarerapi duratyaya yogamaya.
Shemam vidasyati sano bhagavam strayadisas. Tatra smadiya vimashena
Kriya ihatadha. Word for word translation. Vishvasya, of the universe. Ya, who. Sthiti, maintenance. Laya, destruction. Udbhava, creation. Hetu, the cause. Adya, the most ancient person. Yoga, Ishware, by the master of yoga. Even, api, even. Duratyaya, cannot be easily understood. Yogamaya, his Yogamaya potency. Shema, good. Vidashyati, will do. Saha, he. Na, of us. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Triyadisa, the controller of the three modes of material nature. Tatra, there. Ashmadya, by our. Vimreshana, deliberation. Kriyan, what? Iha, on this subject. Artaha, purpose. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. My dear sons, the Lord is the controller of the three modes of nature and is responsible for the creation, preservation, and dissolution of the universe. His wonderful creative power, Yogamaya, cannot be easily understood even by the masters of yoga. That most ancient person, the personality of Godhead, will alone come to our rescue. What purpose can we serve on His behalf by deliberating on the subject? Let's repeat it together. My dear sons, the Lord is the controller, of the three modes of nature, and is responsible for the creation, preservation, and dissolution of the universe. His wonderful creative power, Yogamaya, cannot be easily understood even by the masters of yoga. That most ancient person, the personality of Godhead, will alone come to our rescue. What purpose can we serve on His behalf by deliberating on the subject? Let's read the purport. When something is arranged by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one should not be disturbed by it, even if it appears to be a reverse according to one's calculations. For example, sometimes we see that a powerful preacher is killed, or sometimes he is put into difficulty, just as Haridas Thakur was. He was a great devotee who came into this material world to execute the will of the Lord by preaching the Lord's glories. But Haridas was punished at the hands of the Qazi by being beaten in 22 marketplaces. Similarly, Lord Jesus Christ was crucified and Prahlad Maharaj was put through so many tribulations. The Pandavas, who are direct friends of Krishna, lost their kingdom, their wife was insulted, and they had to undergo many severe tribulations. Seeing all these reverses affect devotees, one should not be disturbed. One should simply understand that in these matters there must be some plan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Bhagavatam's conclusion is that a devotee is never disturbed by such reverse. He accepts even reverse conditions as the grace of the Lord. One who continues to serve the Lord, even in reverse conditions, is assured that he will go back to Godhead, back to the Vaikuntha planets. Lord Brahma assured the demigods that there was no use in talking about how the disturbing situation of darkness was taking place, since the actual fact was that it was ordered by the Supreme Lord. Brahma knew this because he was a great devotee. It was possible for him to understand the plan of the Lord. Let's do the Mangala charana. Om Agyantrimandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Pada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadavaitam Sadabhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Analalita Shri Vishakam Vitamsha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashadesha Taranine Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Namate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Namine Shiva Shivana Bide Daitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Daine Prabhave Namaha Madhurya Ujjwala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtai Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudha Pasidanta Dvantaharine Namo Gaura Kishoraya Sakshat Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambodhe Padambujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Virayate Gaura Virbhava Bhumestam Nishdeshta Sajjana Priyaha Vaishnavama Savabhama Shri Jagannatayate Namaha Vancha Kalpataro Vaishya Nuvavevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mavadanyaya Shabrima Padaite Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gortase Namaha Pancha Tattvam Makham Krishna Bhakta Rupa Sarupakam Bhakta Avataram Bhakta Kyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Surato Pangar Mama Mandamatir Gatir Mat Sarvasva Padam Bojo Radha Madana Mohono Divyadvindaranya Kalpadrumada Srimad Ratnagara Simhastanado Srimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prashalibi Sevya Manosmarami Srimad Rasarasaram Vamsi Bhatatata Shitaha Karsha Venu Swanir Gopi Gopinatha Shri Yashanaha Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Panamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. I'm giving a class for the very first time, and I'd like to say exactly what this Prabhu says. I'm not in the mood to teach you anything, but I've prepared for this class to the best of my ability, and I'm only here to share with all of you what I've learned while preparing for this class. It was a wonderful experience just to even prepare this class. Please give me your blessings so that I can speak the right words in the right mood for the glorification of Srila Prabhupada, for the glorification of the Lordships and all the assembled devotees. And please forgive me if I'm making any mistakes, and you can just raise your hand and correct me at any point. Thank you so much. Okay, so what have we learned in this purport? Prabhupada's covering, it's such a huge purport. When I was preparing for this class, I was just like, wow, there's just so much over here. Prabhupada's talking about Krishna is the supreme controller for the three modes of material nature. Then Prabhupada's also talking about he is responsible for the creation, preservation, and dissolution of the universe. Then Prabhupada is saying also that his wonderful creative power, Yoga Maya, cannot easily be understood even by the masters of yoga. And Brahma is saying, Lord will personally come to our rescue, because demigods are so distressed, and demigods are going to Brahma, there's darkness in the world, there's darkness happening, what's happening, everything's going to be destroyed. And then Brahma is assuring them that nothing's happening without the sweet will of the Lord. That's what we studied yesterday in the class, that nothing in this world is happening without the sweet will of the Lord. Especially in this instance, whatever was happening, because Brahma, at the end of the purport, Srila Prabhupada's mentioning, because Brahma was realized and was a great devotee of the Lord, not just realized, but Prabhupada's also saying he was a great devotee of the Lord. Thus, it was possible for him to understand the plans of the Lord. And Prabhupada's also mentioning how if something is happening, even if some reverses are happening, we should not get disturbed with them. We should know the plan of the Lord. Krishna knows what he is doing. Krishna is the supreme controller. Krishna knows what he is doing. There's not a day when we are not fed. There's not a day when the dogs on the street in India are not fed. There's not a day when the birds are not fed. Krishna is the supreme controller. He's taking care of all of us and every single living entity in the entire world and creation. So even when sometimes something really horrific is happening with us, with our friends, with our families, we should not feel that, oh, Krishna doesn't love us. Krishna loves us no matter what. But maybe that's just exactly what we need in our life at that point of time. For instance, now over here, because now in this chapter it is going on how Jai and Vijay were cursed into being the demons. So there was a reason why that was happening. Also Prabhupada is saying devotees accept the reverses as the grace of the Lord. And also Prabhupada is mentioning if we continue to serve the Lord, it is assured that we're going to go back home, back to Godhead, back to the Vaikuntha planet. Lord Brahma also assured the demigods how disturbing the situation of darkness was taking place was actually because that's what Krishna wanted. That's what the Supreme Personality of Godhead wanted. Then also Prabhupada's talking about Haridas Thakur. And Gauranga Mahaprabhu's transcendental pastimes are so deep. They're much deeper. There's this one Vaishnava Acharya that I was reading from. He's mentioned that they're more deeper than the thousands and thousands of oceans. They're so rustic. They're so deep. They're so beautiful. They're so sweet. And then of course Srila Haridas Thakur. Everyone knows every day in the prayers, we always say Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai, because he was chanting 300,000 names of the Lordships every single day. And one day, by the wish of Sri Krishna, Prabhupada's mentioned in Chaitanya Chaitamrita Antalila, by the sweet will of Krishna, Srila Haridas Thakur came to Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, who was at the premises of his father. And there were discourses happening over there, just like over here. There were lots of Vaishnavas sitting over there, lots of Brahmanas were sitting over there, and they were discussing the glories of the Krishna's names. They were discussing the glories of Krishna's pastime. How glorious are the Krishna's names? We don't know. Because Krishna's pastimes are like a rope, and also Krishna's names are like a rope. That rope, that's going to take us back home, back to Godhead. That's our rope. It's like someone stuck in a well, and then you give a rope and then they can climb up. So for us, Krishna's names are like a rope, and Krishna's pastimes are also like a rope. Then when Haridas Thakur reached over there in that assembly of many learned Vaishnavas, he was told and requested to describe the glories of the holy name. Some were saying holy name can give liberation. And other party over there in that Vaishnava assembly, they were saying holy name cannot give liberation. So when Haridas Thakur came, they were also really joyous and they were really happy. Oh wow, now this Vaishnava has come. He'll be able to enlighten us about whether holy names can take us back home, back to Godhead, whether they can grant us liberation, how glorious the names are. Then one can achieve, and then Haridas Thakur started speaking the glories of the holy name. And Sri Haridas Thakur said, even by the semblance of the holy name, anyone can easily obtain liberation. Haridas Thakur also said, as sun begins to rise, even before it is visible, it dissipates the darkness. With the first glimpse of sunlight, fear of thieves, ghosts, and demons immediately disappear. And when the sun is actually visible, everything is manifest, and everyone begins performing their religious duties similarly. I'm just speaking as it is from Prabhupada's Chaitanya Leela, so that's why I'm just looking at my notes. The first, and then also Srila Haridas Thakur is saying, The first hint that offenseless chanting of the Lord of Holy Name has awakened dissipates the reactions of sinful life immediately. And one chants offenseless, one awakens the service in ecstatic love at the lotus feet of Krishna. Liberation is absolutely an insignificant result derived from the glimpse of the awakening of offenseless chanting of the holy name. Now, Srila Haridas Thakur is saying, what to speak of chanting the holy name offenselessly? But even when we are on Nambha stage, where we are doing offenses, Srila Haridas Thakur is saying, even just that alone will give us liberation. What to speak of people who are actually chanting Shuddha Nam with praying, with love and devotion. And then there was this one very, very defensive Brahmana sitting in the assembly, and his name was Gopal Chakravarti. He said, it's bogus. Whatever you're saying is bogus. It's not true. Holy name cannot give liberation. You're saying holy name, even in Nambhas, can give liberation. I'm saying even the holy names alone, even if chanted fully like in full prema and shuddhana, then also it cannot grant liberation. Then he just got really, really offensive. And then he said, if you're speaking the truth that holy name can grant liberation, then my nose, that Brahmana said that his nose should be melted as a result of leprosy. And then he said, if you're speaking what you're speaking is not the truth and is not the fact, then you should get leprosy and your nose should fall off. Then, of course, after a couple of days, what happened? What happened after a couple of days? Yeah, so Gopal Chakravarti, he got leprosy in his entire body and his nose fell off. And then he realized that he has made an offense to the devotee, to a Vaishnava such as Srila Haridas Thakur. And then he quickly understood that he needed to go to Navadvip Dham, because it is a dham where Gauranga Mahaprabhu's mercy is absolutely flowing freely. And Prabhupada mentioned Chaitanya Charitamrita. So he went to Navadvip Dham and he realized his mistake. And then he started praying to Gauranga Mahaprabhu for forgiveness. And then he started chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And then his leprosy soon disappeared, and Gauranga Mahaprabhu forgave him for his offenses and asked him to continuously chant the holy name. And then that's what he did, and he actually turned into a devotee, a great Vaishnava. And the holy name is very, very powerful, as in holy name can grant us everything. Like it can grant us everything that we ask for. And then I was going through a lecture of a very senior Vaishnava in Vrindavan. And this Maharaj was just saying that holy name is so powerful that he himself has also tested it. That sometimes he'd be chanting his japa and he'd say, oh, if I'm chanting Shuddhanam, this should happen. And that would happen. And Maharaj is not glorifying himself, but he was just emphasizing the point that holy name can grant us everything. Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Hare Nam eva kevalam, kalov naste, vanaste, vanaste, vagatir annitha. In this age of Kali, the only thing, in Kali Yuga, the only thing that can grant us any light, any happiness is chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. It was very interesting. I'm digressing from this. It was really nice. Just last night before bedtime, we just saw we're going to hear from Charu, and it said, switch on your joy. Most people, he said, just turn on your joy, be happy. And then he's saying, if we are happy, we can feel the presence of the God if someone is smiling. That person is receiving the mercy of the Lordship, the person is smiling. And he was saying, if we can't smile, we should force ourselves to smile, because that's the natural propensity of the Jiva soul. Satchid Ananda, to be happy, not to be stuck in these three modes of material nature, what Prabhupada is talking in the Purport. There are three modes of material nature: passion, ignorance, goodness. And there's also three real qualities of our soul. Now these are the qualities of our body which we don't like, which are miserable, which is horrific. But then there's Satchit Ananda, which is just so glorious, so nice. Turn on your joy, be happy, smile. And then the speaker was also explaining how when we smile, because it is just such a natural thing for our soul to smile, to be happy, to be joyous. So even when we smile, there are less muscles in the body that are used while smiling. And there are more muscles that are used when we're actually just frowning, which is not fun. I don't like it. And he was just saying, so it's really important. And then he was just saying, no matter how depressed a person is, but when a person comes to Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. See, everyone can smile. So he was saying, that's the power of the holy name is so powerful. And especially when it's just chanted with love and someone who's just doing real good sadhana, when that person sings, no matter what misery is going on, what's happening in the life, you just feel happy by chanting the names of the Lord, which are so beautiful, which is the Yuga Dharma, Harinam Sankirtan Yagya. And then Narada Muni, right? Narada Muni cursed the sons of Nala Kuvera and Manigriva, right? And what did he curse them to become into? Trees. And what happened? They started yes, that is also right, but right now, they started turning into the trees, right? They started, why? Because Narada Muni is chanting Shuddha Naam of Krishna. So when he desired and cursed them to become into trees, it happened. So it happens. If we chant Shuddha Naam, Krishna is going to be pleased, and no matter what we desire. In fact, in this lecture he's a very, very senior Vaishnava, and Maharaj was explaining, no matter what we are looking for, I know we read the offenses to the holy name, and then we read Shikshashtakam na dhanam na sundarim, kavitam vajagatish kamne. But at the same time, Maharaj was explaining, no matter what we desire, holy names will bring it true. It happens with me also, personally also. Sometimes because mind is so trained to think bad things, and those bad things also happen. I was just like, don't think that, don't think that. But holy names are so powerful. Good things will happen if we think good things. And then once, there's also a story of Narada Muni, and then it was just mentioned why Narada Muni's curse was powerful, and that happened, that they started turning into the trees, because he was chanting the names of Krishna. And then once Narada Muni saw someone who was dying, and Narada Muni said, oh, you're now dead? Oh, come on, get up, wake up. And that man came back to life. Why? Because he's chanting the Shuddha Naam. He's chanting the pure names of Krishna. Our Srila Prabhupada is so successful. Our Srila Prabhupada has made so many devotees, have opened so many centers, so many temples. All the books that are even today getting distributed is only happening because Prabhupada is choosing those people to get that book. Because Prabhupada is inspiring those people who are going out to be inspired to go for distribution. Why Prabhupada is not choosing anybody else but some people? Because that's what Prabhupada wants. And why is Prabhupada so successful? And how Krishna consciousness is so successful? Because Prabhupada was chanting all the time. There was never a time when Prabhupada was not chanting. Hare Krishna, his hands were always in the beat bag, and he was always chanting. And he had full faith in the holy name, and he had full faith in the mercy of his spiritual master. And then Prabhupada, we can just see we're all sitting here because of Srila Prabhupada's mercy. And why is that? Because of chanting of the holy names. Now with Haridas Thakur was even tested by Maya Devi herself, a prostitute, a very, very beautiful young girl between the age of 16 and 20 came to lure Srila Haridas Thakur. What happened? For 3 consecutive days she came. But after listening the Shuddha Naam from the lotus mouth of Srila Haridas Thakur, who is a devotee of Lord Gauranga, a very intimate associate of Lord Gauranga, what happened? Change of heart. That girl surrendered and actually took initiation from Haridas Thakur and started chanting 300,000 lakhs of names every single day. It was pretty interesting while researching, and this Vaishnava is from Vrindavan, and then he was saying, although both Ramachandra and Krishna are the same tattva, we know that, right? Ram and Krishna are same tattva. He was saying there is some speciality in Ram. And what's that speciality? Rama cannot achieve the position of Mother Sita. And second, Rama sometimes gave up Sita. We all know, right? That Ramachandra gave up Sita because when she was the wife of Ram, Mother Sita was the wife of Lord Ram, and then some washerman was whispering something yucky about her. So Lord Ram gave her up because she had been in Ravana's palace, and if a wife is away from the house for one night, she needs to be. So Ramachandra listened, and Ramachandra gave her up. So Maharaj was explaining, and then Maharaj was saying, what was the fault of Sita Maharani? Nothing. She was innocent, right? She was innocent. She was not at fault. And then Maharaj is just showing how in Vrindavan their love is exclusively for Krishna, really. And then Maharaj is explaining, Ram sometimes gave up. If Ram can give up on Sita, Ram can also give up on us. So devotees can have that fear. But with Krishna, Krishna is so merciful that even when a hunchback woman comes and says, Krishna, I've surrendered to you. Please accept me in your service. What does Krishna do? Krishna says, okay, I'll accept you. And makes her into the most beautiful woman ever. And he satisfies her. And then Maharaj was also explaining how Krishna also accepted all the 16,000 wives, which were going to be homeless, because obviously Narakasura has kidnapped them, and then Krishna rescued them, and then they were also saying exactly the same thing. Krishna, we surrender unto you. If you can just accept us as your maidservant, we'll be able to do some service for your queens. We'll be able to clean the floor for your queens. We'll be able to do menial services in your palace. What did Krishna do? What did Krishna do? Krishna married them. And Krishna expanded himself into 16,000 himself, like not different, just same. And he created 16,000 palaces, and he satisfied everybody. That's Krishna. Krishna is very, very, like in Bhagavad Gita 4:11, all of them, as they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path, O Prita. Also my favorite verses, I think in the 9th chapter, 36th, I'm not sure about which is, declare, oh Krishna is telling Arjuna, declare it boldly that my devotees will never perish. There is not a God in history, in future, I think at any time, no God has come and is saying, declare it boldly, my devotees will never perish. Isn't that awesome? That gives you so much solace, right? Krishna is promising us. We just have to believe in his words. And Bhagavad Gita is coming out directly from his lotus mouth. Isn't that amazing? And Krishna has promised to reciprocate with our surrender to him. So we can believe in him. Krishna is very humble and very sweet. Maya Devi herself glorifies Krishna as being more merciful than Ram. Hare in Hare Krishna Mahamantra indicates to Srimati Radharani. And Rama indicates to Radha Ramana Krishna. That means, Radha Ramana means, anyone? What does Radha Ramana means? Enjoyer of Radha. Who is enjoyer? Who's the enjoyer? Krishna is the enjoyer, Radha Ramana. Srimati Radharani gives pleasure to Krishna. Haridas Thakur was so humble that he would not go on any roads of Jagannath Puri, like just like that. He wouldn't just travel. Why? Because he was so humble that he didn't feel himself qualified to wander on the streets of Lord Jagannath, because there were pandas constantly in and out of the temple. And that humility. So to chant the names of the Lord, we need to be humble. Yes, we can be happy. Yes, we can be joyous. Yes, but we need to be humble. When we are humble, then we can be Kirtaniya Sadahari. Then we can chant the names of the Lord always and forever. And personally also, like, just feel it. If sometimes you might, in just a first instance of the situation, if we just let someone else take the upper hand, then we just feel so relaxed and happy. And then we don't have to think about, oh, have done something wrong, might have done this. No, but if we just take the humble approach, then we actually can be just so much more relaxed. And that's what Haridas Thakur demonstrated. And then he could chant always and forever. And then also, Lord Brahma in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14-8 says, My dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you, to you bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently serving the reactions of his past misdeeds and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. So what Prabhupada is saying in the purport is that even when the reverse is happening, if we're just tolerant and we know that Krishna has a plan, we're not going to get fooled. Krishna will reciprocate with us. Krishna will, and like in this purport is saying, Prabhupada is saying, Krishna will take us back home, back to Godhead. Krishna, that person is surely eligible. Now in this purport also, 10th canto, 14th chapter, 8th verse, Prabhupada is again saying, if we are in those reverseful situations when things are not happening as per our desires, as per our wish, Prabhupada is assuring us that Krishna will give us liberation, will take us back home, back to Godhead. And then I just like how this Maharaj just in his language, it's so sweet, that person will easily come to Krishna's eternal service and be happy forever. Isn't that so assuring and so sweet, right? It's so sweet. That's what we want to hear, right? In last days of Srila Haridas Thakur, Mahaprabhu came to him every single day for darshan. Haridas Thakur was so sick. One day Swarup Damodar Goswami went and took some Mahaprasad for him from Jagannath Puri. And Haridas Thakur had not finished his rounds. And then he was like, what can I do? I haven't finished my rounds. I can also not dishonor the prasad. So he just took a little bit of a morsel and paid his obeisances to Mahaprasad. And now Swarup Damodar Goswami was so worried. He went to Gauranga Mahaprabhu and informed him of the situation of Sri Haridas Thakur, that he is not well. And the next day, Gauranga Mahaprabhu loved Srila Haridas Thakur so much, he went with the whole of his, or lot of his associates to Srila Haridas Thakur and said, look, Haridas Thakur, your whole life is perfect. You don't need to chant. What you've chanted is enough. And Haridas Thakur told Gauranga Mahaprabhu, now we have to listen to this very, very carefully and understand how reciprocative Krishna is. Krishna is not a statue. Krishna is not foolish. Krishna is not unkind. Krishna is so kind. Krishna is very reciprocative. Krishna will reciprocate with all of us as well. Haridas Thakur said, dear Gauranga Mahaprabhu, I know your final pastimes are coming to an end. And I don't want to witness those pastimes. I want to leave my body in your lap, looking at your beautiful golden face, chanting, Gaura Hari, Gaur Sundar, Gaur Hari, Gaur Sundar, Jai Sachinandana, Gaur Hari, Jai Sachinandana, Gaura Hari. That's amazing, right? Like you tell Krishna, Krishna, I want to look at your beautiful face. And Haridas Thakur is telling Gauranga Mahaprabhu that he wants to leave his body like that. And what happens then? Anyone? What happens then? Then, that happens. Gauranga Mahaprabhu takes him in his lap. Haridas Thakur in his lap. And Haridas Thakur is looking at the face of Gauranga Mahaprabhu and is saying, Jai Sachinandana, Gaur Hari, Gaur Sundar. And he leaves his body. And Gauranga Mahaprabhu personally does his final rites in the ocean. He carries him in his arms into the ocean. And that's the mercy that we are looking for. That's the mercy we will get. We just need to show up to the temple, chant our rounds, follow the 4 regulative principles, no gambling, no meat eating, and mercy awaits us. It's right there, it's available. But it's up to us how much we are eager to get it. Srila Haridas Thakur was so eager that he was chanting 300,000 lakhs of names. When devotional service is executed on transcendental platform of pure goodness, it is like a sun ray of love for Krishna. At such time, devotional service causes the heart to be softened and by various tastes, and one is then situated in bhav. We need to understand what is bhav, what is rati. Maharaj is explaining, like from whom I was listening to. We should know what is bhav. We should have desire to know what is bhav. Because if we don't have any aim while coming to the temple, if we don't have aim in bhakti, how are we going to progress? We need to know this. Otherwise, how can we perform our sadhana? And then Maharaj is explaining, we are performing sadhana bhakti, right? We are all performing sadhana bhakti. We are following the rules and regulations of what Prabhupada said, what our spiritual master is saying, we're performing all of that. Maharaj is saying, if we are doing all of that, and if we don't know what is our goal, then it is just a shadow of sadhana that we are performing. Isn't that so amazing? It's just a shadow, right? If we are just driving, we know we have to get over there, but if we don't know why we are getting to this party, what is our role, then it's just like no fun, right? Then there will be no vigor in driving to this party because we don't know what it's going to be like, who we're going to meet, what's happening, nothing. So it's just a shadow. So Maharaj is explaining, we should know what is the aim of bhakti, what is the goal of bhakti, why we are performing bhakti, why do we come to the temple, what do we want to achieve. Also many years ago, about 10 years ago now, I was listening to Sachinandan Swami's retreat of holy name, and he was saying, we need to have a goal, and not just to be in the mode of goodness, the three modes of material nature that Srila Prabhupada is mentioning in the purport, but we have to aim for Shuddha Sattva, like mode of pure goodness. That's our aim, and then we'll be able to reach to goodness. But if we have no aim, then we're not going anywhere, according to Maharaj. Then it also says that there are many, Maharaj was also explaining that there are a lot of different, we were also talking one day that there are lots of lokas, Narayana Loka, Narsingha Loka, Rama Loka, and many other such lokas are there in Paravyoma. But bhakti surpasses all these and take us back home, back to where? What is back to Godhead? Goloka Vrindavan. We don't want to go to Vaikuntha. We want to play with Krishna. Prabhupada said, one time we were listening to this conversation, I don't know, was a conversation or lecture or something. Prabhupada said, I think it was Tamal Krishna, and Prabhupada said, I want to go back to Godhead. I want to eat kachoris with Krishna. That's what we are practicing over here. It's so personal, it's so sweet. And then the glories of Yoga Maya, because Prabhupada's talking in this purport and also the translation that Yoga Maya is very, very difficult to understand. So I tried to understand as well. It is written in many, many places that devotees don't like to go to Lakshmi, right? Especially when we come to Krishna consciousness, we think, oh, Lakshmi, we don't want any mercy from Lakshmi. Now Maharaj is explaining, this Lakshmi is called as goddess of opulence and goddess of wealth. We should understand that this does not refer to Mahalakshmi of Narayana in the spiritual world. That Lakshmi is not Chanchala, restless. But she is steady and permanent in that form. She is perpetually serving Narayana. That's Yogamaya. That Lakshmi we should serve, not the Lakshmi of opulences and wealth. Did you understand? Was I able to communicate properly? Not so much. I thought so. So there is Durga, right? There is Durga, and we call her Lakshmi as well. And we don't worship, right? Because Durga worship is in Chaitanya Bhagavat also, in Chaitanya Charitamrita also, that most people were worshipping Durga for getting their sons married, right? Asking for money and wealth. So there is that Durga, correct? Now she's also called Lakshmi, right? Durga, Lakshmi, right? So there is that Lakshmi of goddess, which is called as goddess of wealth and opulence. Now, you think we can also, now there is also Lakshmi who is in Garbhodakshai ocean, and what is she doing? What is she doing? She is massaging the lotus feet of Narayana, right? Now that Lakshmi is not restless. It is said, right, in common conversations we say Lakshmi is very restless. She wouldn't stay at one place. She's just hopping from one place to another. But the Lakshmi in the Vishnu Loka, in Vaikuntha, she's not restless. Is that making sense now? She's fixed in her service. That's Yogamaya. And even if now we are not understanding, it's fine to not understand because Prabhupada is mentioned in the translation and purport. His wonderful creative power, Yogamaya, cannot be easily understood, even by the masters of yoga. So it's fine, even if we're not understanding. But I'm just trying my best here. But was it a little bit clear, making sense? Or little bit? Just little bit? That there's this, let's just see, there's this one Lakshmi in Vaikuntha. She's continuously massaging the lotus feet. And also it is mentioned, and what is Lakshmi really doing in Vaikuntha? She's sweeping the floors of the palace, which are made of ambrils and pearls and diamonds. And in one hand, she has a lotus flower. And she's sweeping the floors of Vaikuntha. That's what Lakshmi is doing. We love that Lakshmi because Srimati Radharani is the fountainhead, the root of that Lakshmi. And so we love her, we worship her. And it was also mentioned, this is not part of the class, but I read it, so I'm just sharing, that Lakshmi in Vaikuntha, she wakes up early in the morning and she takes a bath in the pond and she has tulsi manjari leaves to worship Narayana, her husband. And then she washes. While she is washing the tulsi leaves in the pond, she looks at her face and then she just admires it. Not because she's thinking she's so beautiful, but she thinks, that's the face kissed by my husband, Vishnu, Lord Narayana. These are the remnants left by Vishnu. So she's just so awestruck looking at that Mahaprasad. And so she's worshipping Narayana. That's Yogamaya. That's pleasure potency of Krishna. Ladini Shakti, Srimati Radharani. Does that make a little bit of sense now? What to speak of older devotees? New devotees are more dear to her Bhagwan Krishna than goddess of fortune. Even forget about the old devotees, but even the new devotees who have just chanted one time the names of Lord, Hare Krishna Mahamantra, they're more dearer to Krishna than anybody else. It's mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 14th chapter, 15th verse, right? It is mentioned over there, Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, even the goddess of fortune, they're not so dear to Krishna, but the devotees are so dear to Krishna. It's mentioned. Yogamaya has so many forms, and we should not commit offense to any one of those forms. Why? Because as Vaishnavas, we should not make an offense to anybody really, right? We should be nice and kind to everyone. We should be loving towards everybody. So why would we make an offense to the Shakti of Lord? That's like playing with fire. Why would we want to do that? No. They're all Shakti of Bhagwan, but we should not perform any give and take transactions with them. Now there are many forms of goddesses of fortune, Yogamaya. We should not have transactions with them, give and take transactions with them. We should only pray to them, please give us your mercy, Please give us your mercy that our enjoying spirit will go away. That's what we should pray to the Yogamaya, to the different forms of goddess of fortunes. Battering mentality will lead us into the material enjoyment, and that will keep us engaged in the material world. How many of us wants to be engaged in the material world forever? No one. I think everybody is getting a gist of Maya, Yoga Maya a little bit. We all understand just a little bit. And then there is Atma Maya. In Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter, 6th verse, there is also the word called as Atma Maya. Now that potency, Atma Maya, Yoga Maya, is coming, the root is Srimati Radharani. Srimati Radharani cannot be understood. She can't be understood. Gauranga Mahaprabhu, Krishna himself had to come as Gauranga Mahaprabhu to understand Srimati Radharani. That also, he was covered, like his outer body was covered by Srimati Radharani. Who are we? We're so insignificant. What can we understand about Srimati Radharani? We can only consider ourselves fortunate to be in the presence of Srila Prabhupada. Srimati Radharani, Srila Prabhupada, both the words starts from Sri. We should just take shelter of Srila Prabhupada and try and understand everything by his vision, by his words, by his Vani, by Bhagavatam. We can't understand. She's inconceivable. And then it is also mentioned, Yogamaya potency is eternal, nitya, factual, satya, anadi, beginningless, and ananda, unlimited. Now, if there's just an example, like she's beginningless. Why? Because if you know, all of us, if we remember that Yogamaya, sister of Krishna, was born at the same time as Krishna, right? When Devaki gave birth to Yogamaya, and also Krishna was taking birth with Yashodamaya and Devaki at the same time this was happening. Yogamaya, right? Are we on the same page? Yes? Yes? Right? Now if you see, Yogamaya was already there, because for the birth of Lord Balaram, she had transferred Balaram from the womb of Devaki to Rohini. So that means she was already there. So that shows the propensity of her beginningless. And then also, Yogamaya is one who increases bhajanananda, the happiness experienced by Krishna's servants. So Yogamaya will help us to experience happiness. Krishna's happiness is reciprocated by Krishna through Yogamaya. This Yogamaya, taking essence of Hladini Shakti and Samvit potencies together, takes a devotee progressively through the stages of Shraddha, Bhav, Prema, and all the way up to Mahabhav. Can you imagine? Yogamaya potency alone, with taking the essence of Hladini Shakti and Samvit Shakti, would take us to the stages of devotional bhakti, correct? There are the stages of Bhav, Mahabhav, Prema, Sneha, Anurag. Yogamaya will personally take us. Maharaj is